Good morning, YouTube. It looks like there's a bit of a debate going on in the natural lifting community, and that's really all it is, a debate. It's not really drama, but the topic of discussion is strength. Now, when it comes to this discussion, there's a lot of different points of view going at it, and oftentimes it goes back to the relationship between strength and hypertrophy. Now, I do think that when it comes to getting your best muscle gains, you do need to get stronger, or at least strength is going to be something that you observe in the long term. Regardless of your exercise selection and other basic fundamentals that you use, you will observe an increase in performance. Now, is an increase in performance on anything outside of the competition or the powerlifting competition lifts not strength? That is one issue that I kind of take with a bit of the discussion, and I don't necessarily think that that is something that the more strength focused among us are arguing. Now, I do understand where that concern comes from because it is one that is incredibly valid, and it is something that many people have struggled with in the past. I do definitely recognize that there are times where I do still hear this, even in more formal education environments, where the idea is you just need to lift heavier and get stronger on big basic exercises, and that's how you get big. And this is an oversimplification that makes it very difficult to say that it is the only thing that matters. Now, when it comes from the other side, however, it is this idea that if you focus on slower rates of progression, different exercises that challenge the muscle in a more targeted way and doesn't really induce systemic fatigue, that is somehow separate from strength, which I also don't think is their argument. Listening to how different people are putting forward their views, what I am finding is that the overwhelming majority of their message is consistent with one another. They overlap. There is a significant amount of overlap between both sides, whether they are more hypertrophy focused or more strength focused. Now, when it comes to the issue then, why is there a debate if most of the messaging is incredibly consistent with one another? And I find that issue to be the use mention error. So to kind of illustrate this point, I'm going to make a statement about Boston. All right. Boston is a big and busy city, and it has 6 letters. Now, something should be going on in your brain where it's clear that I'm not talking about the same thing. Yes, I might be saying the same word, but what that word means and the representation of that word doesn't necessarily equate to the thing itself. Let me say that again. The representation of that thing doesn't necessarily reflect that thing itself. So, when it comes to the discussion of strength, what are we actually talking about here? If strength is defined as your performance on the squat, the bench, and the deadlift, you can make very abhorrent or controversial or seemingly disingenuous phrases or claims, such as you can get weaker, or you can get weaker, but you can get bigger. And if strength then has a much more broad and vague definition, you kind of run into issues of, well, is that really useful? And here is the kicker when it comes to our definitions and how we use language. In order to properly identify a thing, we already have some knowledge of that thing. If I were to line up a series of different breeds of dog and I ask you, well, define to me a dog. What is the essence of a dog? What makes a dog a dog? You are going to rely partially on existing prior knowledge. You can't just, out of the ether, pull out what is dog. You just can't. You have to start with some basic elements of what makes it that thing. And then it needs to be specific enough to eliminate things that are not that, but broad enough to include all different kinds of dog. Why is this relevant? Because when it comes to how we use and understand and illustrate strength, it becomes incredibly important. Strength training is in my opinion, most definitely needed for maximizing hypertrophy. But strength training is not exclusive to certain lifts, and it is not exclusive to rates of progression. It is not exclusive to certain numbers, because it is not the number itself that matters. If anything, it could be not necessarily the rate, but the amount of change. If, for example, you are a person who is very gifted and you are able to bench 315 very, very early in your lifting career, 315 is maybe only, let's say, 30% of your maximum potential. In order for you to get bigger, you would have to realize or get closer to your top end potential for that lift to show that your size is improving. Now, when it comes to the bodybuilder argument of things, even if you don't use the competition lifts, which do not exclusively belong to powerlifting, they have a shared lineage with bodybuilding as well. Even if you don't use those lifts, if you apply similar ideas, principles, and programming, if you apply similar tools and principles to your own training, you will observe growth. You will observe strength gains as well for those particular exercises. So when it comes to strength training or getting stronger, is it so obvious that it excludes certain exercises? I'm going to have to say no. The exercise that we use to measure might not be the best measurements for hypertrophy, but the actual metric of strength very well could be, and in my opinion, it is. When it comes to getting stronger, it is not just exercise selection based. It is not just solely increasing load on one particular rep range, which isn't really a range because I'm referencing a 1 rep max, but an overall body of work that you accumulate and assign to a certain muscle or lift will only improve you in the long term. So if you increase your 1 rep max, and there's a lot of different ways to do this. Obviously, if you cheat and if you use certain mechanical advantages such as changing your leverages, changing the ranges of motion, these are ways that you can artificially inflate your strength number. And in the long term, this could present an issue for hypertrophy. Now, with that being said, if you rely on other methods such as increasing the size of the muscles involved and then you then see an increase in performance, there is no doubt that you got bigger because getting bigger is how you got that bigger number. But then there's other ways of going about things as well. You improve things via reps, rep quality. Progressive overload is not isolated to one simple metric, which is an increase in load or intensity. If you do more volume, if you do higher quality volume, if you do the same or more volume in a less amount of time, meaning your work capacity has improved, then these are all valid ways to continue making size gains. So when it comes to strength, it's incredibly useful to understand what each person is themselves meaning. And the next level beyond that is to try and find if we can find a singular definition that works in all cases and how useful that could potentially be. The closest that I've personally found is that strength is quite simply getting stronger. The quality and the pursuit, the observation that one is getting stronger. That itself does not eliminate exercise variety, exercise selection. It doesn't eliminate different rep ranges and whatnot. Now, this could be incredibly vague and it could be incredibly broad, but I do think it is specific enough to rule out certain things. For example, if one manipulates leverages and ranges of motion, is that truly getting stronger? If we decide that that is going to be the cutoff point where the form and the technique and how you measure it has to be at least consistent, maybe that can be good enough, but I'm not entirely sure. So let me know in the comment section below, what do you think is a reasonable definition that we can use and operate on when it comes to hypertrophy and strength training and the relationship between the two? Obviously, powerlifting is incredibly different because you are now operating with a rule set. A rule set needs to be applied to your form and technique, and then everything else is oriented toward the development of a bigger total, a bigger 1 rep max on those lifts. That is powerlifting. Powerlifting is not equivalent to strength. To say that strength is powerlifting or something of that nature comes down again to that use mention error, where the representation of that thing doesn't actually equate to the representation or doesn't equate to what you're actually representing. The word Boston is not the city of Boston. The word strength is not the sport of powerlifting. The pursuit of strength is not exclusive to those who only care about numbers. Now, there's likely things that I'm missing, points that I'm glossing over, and part of that is because I do think it's necessary and worthwhile to engage with the content and argumentation put forth by both sides. Bodybuilders, powerlifters, those who pursue hypertrophy via strength, and those who pursue hypertrophy via other means. And at the end of the day, in my opinion and in my estimation, what you find is that what they refuse to call strength is still pragmatically, and when it comes down to your program and day-to-day lifting process, can still fall under that umbrella of strength training. So that is my opinion. That is my perspective on the matter. Let me know how wrong I am in the comment section below. If you agree with me, if you don't agree with me, if you find that I myself am making logical errors and fallacies, please leave that in the comment section below. Not because I want to stoke the fire, but just because I want to kind of see where we're kind of at and where our definition of strength is currently operating from. So yeah, leave that in the comment section below. Thank you so much for getting the channel to 3,000 subs. I do hope that my channel can continue to be of use. I am in the process of trying to find a way to film some more content that I want to bring onto the channel, because I want to get back in touch with why I made my YouTube channel. Obviously, part of it is a business aspect, but another part of it is I just want to be able to share things that are meaningful to me, or things that I find interesting and things that I find useful. So self-defense content is coming to the future. Everyday carry concepts are going to be coming to the channel as well. Gear reviews and things of that nature, I am considering bringing that onto the channel as some smaller side content. And of course, philosophy videos. I am a philosophy major, and more videos relating to that topic will be coming to the channel. And I will always try to bring it back and relate it to the strength and hypertrophy way of content here on YouTube. So I hope that you find it interesting. I hope that you continue to stick around and continue to support the channel. Thank you so much for getting me to 3,000 subs. I can't believe that I'm here, but it's all thanks to you guys. So thank you so much. Have a great day.